9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Huge Pop Entertainment. We are here tonight with a St. Louis Hall of Fame guest. He is primarily a referee and ring announcer. He worked with USA Championship Wrestling. He's also involved with SICW, Southern Illinois Championship Wrestling. He has deep roots in St. Louis territory. He's even got dabbed in some roller derby stuff. He's been a broadcaster with Larry Matzek. He is recognized for his long-standing dedication and many years in the ring. Mr. Simon is announced as an inductee into the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame class of 2026. Also familiar with the CAC, California Alley Club. Please welcome to the show, Mr. Tom Simon. How are you doing today, my friend?
Huge. I am huge. And I'm actually giving you a pop because that's a great introduction. I'm doing great tonight. I had to pay tribute, of course, to Sam Muchnick and Larry Matzek and Mickey Garagiola and all the guys in St. Louis at the St. Louis Wrestling Club. It is my pleasure to be here on Drop the Mic.
Thank you, sir. So let's talk way back. I should have said like that. Let's talk about Mr. Tom Simon as a kid growing up watching wrestling. What was that like for you?
Oh, well, you have to remember, I grew up in the St. Louis area. Okay. I no longer live there, but I go back as much as I can because I still have family there. But my Saturdays and Sundays consisted of watching Wrestling at the Chase and watching roller derby on KPLR TV Channel 11 in St. Louis. They would have roller derby on from 10 to 11 in the morning on Sunday morning, and then Wrestling at the Chase from 11 to 12. Earlier in the broadcast life of Wrestling at the Chase, they would show it on Saturday night at 10 o'clock because it was an independent TV station owned by Harold Koppler, who owned the Chase Hotel.
Okay.
They would tape originally in the Coruscant room, which is the big ballroom at the Chase Hotel. They would tape on Tuesday nights and then show them on the weekend.
All right.
And I being a youngster, always thought that they showed it live. And so I watched from 10 to 11 o'clock on Saturday nights. And there was a Saturday night that the main event was Cowboy Bob Ellis against Buddy Rogers. And they were all over the place, and Cowboy Bob Ellis had a propensity to color. He had some, you couldn't tell in the old days because you didn't see the high contrast and the high definition, so you didn't see all the railroad tracks on his forehead. But Buddy Rogers would pick up a glass water pitcher from Joe Garagiola's desk. He was the play-by-play announcer at the time. And Rogers hit Ellis over the head. He started bleeding, and all of a sudden, the screen goes blank.
Oh.
And I'm going, oh my gosh, I hope they get it back on the air. There was a storm, and it knocked the station off the air, and I thought they were live at the time. So I said, and to this day, I still don't know how that match ended. Because the station was off the air for a little while with the storms and everything else. So I started out when I was, 5, 6 years old, and started watching wrestling back then and never missed a weekend. And thank God for the advent of VCRs, because I was able to record Wrestling at the Chase and watch it if I went to church on Sunday mornings. Watched, Wrestling at the Chase. I watched the Bay Area Bombers roller derby team, and eventually they would start skating in St. Louis. Except it wasn't the Bombers back then. This was back in 1976. Okay. And they were, it was the Midwest Thunderbirds. Of course, okay. The Thunderbirds were the baby faces at the time. And the teams that would come in, the Philadelphia Warriors, the New York Chiefs, just a lot of good skating teams. And they would be there on Sunday afternoons at the Kiel Auditorium. Great venue. And if you've ever been at the Kiel, it's also where they held the wrestling shows every third Friday night. Wow. And from the screen and the firewall, which separated the Kiel Auditorium from the Kiel Opera House, there was an entranceway and a long ramp that came all the way down to the floor of the auditorium. And so the entrances for wrestling were kind of long, but it was a lot easier for the roller derby skaters because all they had to do is get at the top of the ramp and just skate on down. Yeah. And then they'd get in the ring or on the track and start warming up.
And I used to watch roller derby when I was growing up as a kid. Like 7, 8 years old. So that's about 50 years ago. And yeah. I loved watching the women. I'll be honest. Love watching women's roller derby more than men because for some reason they were brutal and it was fun to watch.
They were stiff. They were. Yeah. And the way I know that is that the scorekeeper, the guy that ran the scoreboard at the Kiel, that was a union job. So he had to be there. He had to run the scoreboard. He didn't want to be there, especially on Sunday afternoons, but he was there. And he wasn't very good at keeping track of the score and everything else. So I would go down towards the track. This is back in 76, so I'm 23 years old. And I asked the guy, the union guy, I said, "You need help keeping track of the score?" He says, "Man, that'd be great." So he said, "I'll get you a chair." And they got me a chair, and I sat there, and I had a score sheet, and I'd keep track of the score and tell him put 2 points up for the home or 3 points up or, 5 points for the visitors, whatever it was. Yeah. Because I'd keep very good score. And the trackside announcer for the Thunderbirds, guy you probably might be familiar with from Chicago, a gentleman by the name of Chet Kopic. Now, Chet was also in the wrestling business. He was ring announcing for WWE. Okay. When they came into Chicago and they came into St. Louis, he would do the ring announcing. Well, Chet did the trackside announcing. He was the PA announcer for the Thunderbirds. Well, it happens that the one Sunday afternoon, no Chet Kopic. They sent down a skater that was hurt, a guy by the name of Pete Kelly. It was the Australian Kangaroos skating against the Thunderbirds. Okay. And he really didn't want to be there. He really didn't want to announce. And he, there was no emphasis. There was nothing that was that would get the crowd hyped up, which was what the announcer's job was. Right. To get the crowd up and get them going. So, and I recognized Pete, and I said, "Pete, you really don't want to be down here, do you?" He says, "No." I mean, he was that quiet. "No, I don't. But I'm hurt, so I've got to work. I have to do the announcing." I said, "I've seen Chet do this a lot. If you need help, if you want my help, I'll be glad to help out and get the crowd going." He says, "Here," and hands me the mic without hesitation. So
Nice.
the end of the first half ends. We've got the crowd going, and they're really high. T-Birds are down 2 points at halftime. So I'm sitting there drinking my soda. The union guy took off for a little bit, and Pete comes back down about 3 minutes after he went up the ramp, and he says, "Come with me." So I said, "What?" He said, "Somebody wants to talk to you." So I said, "Okay." I go up the ramp, turn the corner, go into the door, the entranceway, and there stands Jess Adams. He says, "Who in the hell told you you could get on my microphone?"
Oh shit.
And I go, uh, "Mr. Adams, with all due respect, you could hear crickets out there when Pete was announcing. I was just trying to get the crowd up." He says, "Well, okay, go ahead and do that in the second half and then come see me after the game." So I did that. He says, and naturally the T-Birds won. They were the crowd was happy. Everybody was happy. They're throwing popcorn all over the place. So after the game, I go up and see Jess. He says, Chet quit because he was concentrating on his sportscasting on CBS in Chicago, and he says, "So we're short. We can't get another announcer in because the guy in Philadelphia is busy. The guy out in Los Angeles refuses to come because it's too far away for him, and he doesn't want to spend every weekend in Chicago and St. Louis." Right. He says, "I'll tell you what. Are you going to be at the game next Sunday?" I said, "Yeah, I'm at every game." He says, "Tell you what. Would you announce again? We'll give you $25 a game."
Okay.
And come every Sunday. So after about 2 or 3 Sundays, John Hall is there, and he was the coach of the Thunderbirds. He had been on the road. John, I introduced myself to him. He says, "I heard you've been doing a good job here." I said, "Well, I appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun, and to be honest, the $25 is nice too." He says, "How would you like to come to Chicago and do the games in Chicago every week?" And I was tending bar. That was my job at the time. So I said, "Well, yeah, but I'd have to either drive up there or fly up there." And he says, "I'll tell you what. We'll split your trans costs. We'll put you up in the hotel up here, which is the Stockyard Inn, next to the Chicago Stockyards, which was also next to the Chicago Amphitheater."
Okay.
The International Amphitheater, which they also held AWA wrestling there too.
Yeah.
Big venue. He says, "We'll get you set up, get you a room every weekend, and then you come back down on Sunday and do the game in St. Louis. And if we got a game on Saturday night, we'll just take you along and get you going." So that's how I started with the roller derby.
Wow.
And the last games that I did was a 45-day, 15,000-mile tour of all of the county fairs in Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Wisconsin, Kentucky, and Tennessee. 45,000 miles.
Wow.
15,000 miles over 45 days. We were packed in 3 Winnebagos, and our track, the guy that drove the track around had his semi, and that was the last time I did roller derby, because they moved back to Los Angeles and stayed there, and naturally they had the announcers out there. But that was my first taste of sports entertainment, so to speak.
So, yes or no question. I've always wanted to know this since I was a kid. Was roller derby predetermined?
It was very creatively written.
Okay, perfect.
But yes.
Okay, awesome. So one of the reasons why we're here is because of your accomplishments and in the business of wrestling, as a referee, as an announcer, as whatever, all the things you were doing. So when you got that phone call on that day to officially say you were going to be inducted into, I think, this year's Hall of Fame, correct?
Yes, it's the 2026 class of the Independent St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame.
What went through your mind when you got the phone call? What did you say? What was, oh my God? Just walk us through that day.
It was well, Luke Roberts is the media director for the Hall of Fame.
Right.
He also works with a lot of promotions, and helps out some promotions getting talent for them. Luke and I have known each other since my first days in wrestling with the Mississippi Valley Wrestling Alliance.
Okay.
And so when, we've been friends for, 20 years. And we always talked. And every time I came home, he lives in Collinsville, Illinois, which is where I grew up. It's about 9 miles east of St. Louis. And so, he calls me all the time. And it's nothing unusual to talk to him once a week. So when Luke calls me, he says, "Hey, is there any chance you can get away the middle of July? We've got some things going on up here, and I think I could get you something to do, and with one of the promotions." And I said, "Well, that sounds nice. Yeah, I need a weekend off in the middle of the summer because most people don't know, but I have 2 seasonal jobs. Now I'm gonna tell a tale right now. I turned 74 years old in July 27th, and so I've worked at least 2 or 3 jobs my whole life. Full-time job, worked for a school district. I'd worked for Oak Lawn Racetrack, which is about 3 blocks away from my house here in beautiful Hot Springs, Arkansas.
Okay.
And then I worked at the amusement park here in town, Magic Springs Theme and Water Park, during their season. So I'd have, 2 or 3 things going on at a time. Middle of the summer, it's perfect for me to take a weekend off because I've got people that'll cover for me. And he says, "Yeah, I just wanted to make sure you were able to, come up this weekend." And I said, "Yeah." He says, "Okay," and blah, blah, blah. We talked for a while, and then he called me back a week later, and he says, "Okay, can you stay through Sunday that weekend?" And I said, "Sure." The great thing about traveling up to Collinsville and traveling into the St. Louis area, 2 things. Number 1, my sister lives there, so I've always got a place to stay. And number 2, I can go to Cardinal games. I can, I don't have to worry about finding or paying for a hotel. So I said, "Yeah, I'm good." He says, "Okay, as long as I've got you firmed up for this, it's my pleasure to tell you that you are going to be inducted into the Independent St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame." I said, "You son of a..."
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
And I said, "I am absolutely, I'm blessed and proud to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. I am receiving the Pete Parisi Award, which is one award that's not just for referees. It's not, not for wrestlers because they've got their own awards. The Pete Parisi Award, Pete was a host of a cable access show, and he always loved professional wrestling. So he would talk about professional wrestling all the time. Sometimes he'd shoot part of his show at MMWA, which is known as South Broadway in St. Louis. And so he did a lot of things for professional wrestling. So the background of the Pete Parisi Award is somebody who has worn a lot of hats in the business.
Absolutely.
And that happens to be true in my case because I started out refereeing, but I would move on. In 2004, when I moved to Arkansas, I moved in to Hot Springs, and a guy that was working in St. Louis by the name of Steve Sharp called me up and said, "Hey, I'm working for a promotion down here. I'm their champion. Come and see the show. Tell me what you think about it. So
Right.
he says, oh, and bring your stuff. Well, being the referee that I am, I always bring my stuff. You never know when you pick up a couple of bucks working a show.
Right.
So I went to the show. I went in. He said, "Come up in the afternoon because we're gonna work on some things and I want your opinion." So I went and watched, all the things that were going on in the afternoon. And he says, "By the way, you do have your stuff, right?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "Good. You're working the main event." I said, "Okay." Is it okay with the promoter? He says, "Yeah, I already talked to him about it. He's seen your work. You're going to work." So I end up going to the show. I didn't watch very much of it, unfortunately, because I was backstage.
Right.
I worked like three matches plus the main event, and I was blessed at that time. The promoter was a guy named Matt Riviera, and he and Bill Ash ran the promotion. At that time, it was called Mid-South Wrestling, which was very famous in Oklahoma, Arkansas, Tennessee.
Right.
And so I became a referee for Mid-South Wrestling, and they worked three weekends out of the month.
Okay.
It was nice.
Yeah.
And so when Bill and Matt parted and went their ways, Matt said, "I need you to stay." I said, "Why?" He says, "We're going to start TV, and I know you've worked TV before, so I need you to give me some tips and things like that." And I said, "Yeah, I'll be glad to." So long story, little shorter, Traditional Championship Wrestling was the new name of the organization. And Matt is a millionaire. Let's be very honest. He's not one of those tax return promoters that just runs a show right after tax season. He actually had the money to bring people in, and so I went to work at TCW.
Okay.
I worked as his travel guy. I handled the licensing for the wrestlers, and I would referee, and after a while he'd get other referees, and because his ring announcer he wasn't happy with, and he knew that I had done some announcing before, so I became the ring announcer for TCW, and it would be great fun the whole weekend because there'd always be guys coming in from out of town, and so I'd arrange their travel, and we had people like Danny Hodge, great guy, has actually a hand that could crush an apple.
Nice.
That's how strong his hands were. Guys like Jake the Snake Roberts. Jerry the King Lawler would come in once every 3 months or so. Mickey James, Pope D'Angelo De Niro, Jay Lethal. There were a lot of guys that came in because Matt paid well, and he'd pay their travel, and he'd get them in, and we'd sell a lot of tickets, and that's the way it worked.
Wow.
It was great, and so I had my hands in quite a few things during the TCW days. The great thing about it is TCW has been on the air in Little Rock, Arkansas on KARZ Channel 42, midnight on Saturday night.
Nice.
It has been on the air for the last 13 years.
Awesome.
Now, we only have 2 years of shows, but they keep repeating the cycle over and over again because the last show feeds into the first show in the 120 show cycle.
Okay.
And so what happens in the last show, you pick up the story from show number 1. And,
that's awesome.
And so people go, "No, you're not on." I said, "I swear to God, I'm still on TV, and I look as great as ever."
That's
I look a
awesome.
lot younger.
Yeah.
And so, we, of course, TCW hasn't run in quite a while, but a lot of other promotions in the area knew of me, and I've worked 5 shows this year. It's not a
Okay.
lot,
Oh.
but for 73 years old, that's not bad either.
Right. So you've had your hands in a lot of stuff, man, and I'm looking at names that are going to be inducted this year with you: Beast, Marcus Mansfield, Butch Fletcher. How does that feel to be amongst that big of those great guys?
I am absolutely blessed because I've worked with that list that you read. I've worked with every one of those guys
Wow. Okay.
in the St. Louis area. I've worked with Marcus Mansfield. He was a great guy. He's passed on, but he was the driver for a guy named Glenn Jacobs when he made his debut in WWF as Kane. Hell in the Cell in St. Louis. It was the first Hell in the Cell. Undertaker against Shawn Michaels. Of course, Steve Sharp was supposed to be a cameraman, but he was too big for the cameraman's outfit. So his brother took his place, Kevin.
Okay.
And he was the cameraman that got knocked out outside of the ring. And that, if not for Marcus Mansfield, Kane would never have been in the WWE.
I didn't know that. That's...
The Beast, the first match I worked for MVWA, which was the promotion in St. Louis I started with, the first match I worked was the main event of the first show that I worked. And you had a question in here. What was the most wild show? Can you tell us about the time when a match went completely off script, or off the rails, so to speak?
Yeah.
And it was a match called Fans Bring the Weapons.
Okay.
Now you would think, yeah, okay, they'll bring a kendo stick or something like that. No. The MVWA fans had a twisted, sick sense of humor, and they brought things like a dirty baby diaper,
Oh no.
a bowling ball, Christmas ornaments, stereo cabinet speakers,
Okay.
metal shelves. You name it, baseball bats, you name it, it was in the ring. You almost couldn't walk around. And so that was the first match that I worked. And it was Billy Bob against the Beast. And the Beast worked the first match that I worked in St. Louis.
Okay.
And when we did TV for MVWA, he gave me the sweetest DDT I've ever had. And I was just out. They dragged me up. His manager, Tim Miller, the leader of Miller's Violent Wrestling Alliance, MVWA, play on words.
Yep.
He took a razor, a hair trimmers out of his trousers and shaved my goatee off. He left the mustache, but shaved my goatee completely off, and I was knocked out just laying there. And so the Beast, I love with all my heart. Marcus, great guy, and Black Glove, Butch Fletcher, is just one of the guys. To this day, I still talk to Butch and his wife on Facebook quite often. I'm just truly blessed to be inducted with all of those guys. Big Bad Ben, another guy, Johnny Ramirez, another referee. I saw Johnny Ramirez one time at a place called Pops. Or no, not Pops, PT's. and it was a gentleman's club, and they had mud wrestling, and Johnny was the referee for that.
There
of
you
course,
go.
everybody knew Johnny Ramirez because he was from Fairmont City in Illinois,
Right.
and he refereed for Sam Muchnick for years
There
on
you
Wrestling
go.
at the Chase.
Yeah. So, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So as the day gets closer to the induction, and I'm sure you've probably thought of what you wanted to say, but without giving it too much away, what's your core message going to be to
Well,
the fans, to the Wrestling Hall of Fame?
the thing, and I have not written my speech yet.
Okay.
I've jotted some notes down, but I haven't put the speech together. The guy that's going to induct me is Steve Murphy, and Steve was my first promoter.
Okay.
He was the guy that ran the Mississippi Valley Wrestling Alliance.
Okay.
He also had a deal with the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. They would have this hotline where you could call and get the news recorded, recorded news, stock markets,
Right.
weather, and they had the wrestling hotline. And there were two extensions for the wrestling hotline. The first one was Blackjack Brown's National Wrestling Report,
Okay.
and it'd be about 5 minutes long. And the second one was the MVWA Pro Report, and it was hosted by Steve Murphy.
Okay.
Steve was the promoter of the MVWA, so it just made sense that he would do the MVWA Pro Report. So when he did his report, I'd call all the time, and it was a local number for me. And he came out one time with, fans were going to have tryouts for wrestlers and referees and announcers this Saturday at occasions on Lemay in Lemay, Missouri. So if you've ever wanted to be in the business, here's your chance. And so I went to the tryouts, had a referee shirt on, black pants, had never worked in the wrestling business at the time, but had worked in roller derby.
Right.
So I was familiar with the work. During the afternoon, they had guys in there doing tryout matches and things like that. And he goes, "It's nice to see you dressed for the part. Go on up and referee this match." So I go in, and having seen wrestling on TV for so many years, I knew where the referee needed to be and where he needed not to be. And it was, I did a pretty good job. And one of the guys that was there was Luke Roberts.
Huh?
So I introduced myself to him, and he had a show. He says, "We've got a show tonight. Would you be able to stay for it?" And this was Steve. And I said, "Sure. Why not?"
Right. Absolutely.
Had a ball, and that led to the first match that I ever worked, which was the Fans Bring the Weapons match. I knew nothing about what was going to happen in the match. In fact, that's been my philosophy for the most part. I don't want to know everything that you guys are going to do in the ring.
Right.
I want to call it like legit. I want, if you're choking, I'm gonna count. If you can be sneaky,
Right.
but I'm gonna try to watch what you're doing.
Right.
And so for that match, that Fans Bring the Weapons match, they said all you need to know is there's going to be a time when Billy Bob will tell you, "Stand behind me,"
Okay.
and that's all he told me. I said, "Okay, sounds good." And we got to the point in the match. Most of the time, I'd stay outside the ring. He says, "Get in the ring, stand behind me," and all of a sudden, he had this metal shelf, swung it back, hit me in the forehead, and I go down.
Dang.
And I figure I probably was supposed to get hit with that, so I'll stay down. I had my arms back, and Steve Murphy was at ringside. He grabbed me, pulled me over. They're trying to wake me up. He says, "Don't wake up, don't wake up, don't wake up." Da, 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 da. And they're shaking me, and then all of a sudden, when the end of the match is coming about, the Beast hit Billy Bob with a VCR,
Okay.
and he went down, and his head landed right between my legs.
Dang.
And I was lucky I was close enough to the side of the ring he says, Steve goes, don't move. I said, okay. And he goes down. As soon as he goes down, they shake me. I roll over, count very slowly to 3, and that was my induction in St. Louis wrestling as a referee.
Nice story. So, looking back.
And that led to Steve Murphy is the one that's going to be inducting me into the Hall of Fame. And,
there you go.
That's what this whole story was about, to get to the point that Steve's going to be inducting me. And some of the things that I'm going to bring up are the great memories, of course, of St. Louis wrestling, the great tradition of St. Louis wrestling, and how blessed I was to be included in this brotherhood for 50 years.
Brotherhood, you said that name, and I can only imagine how important brotherhood is to you guys back in the day, even legends like you and compared to brotherhood now. So my question would be, how has wrestling evolved from the time you've got in the business to 2026? Do you think that we're missing what you guys had back in the day?
Well, the thing about wrestling nowadays is that everybody's trying for that one spot, that one flip, that the one wow moment. Whereas if you but it's kind of hard to get emotionally involved without 20 minutes of promos and 6 weeks of build up and everything else. When we had, there was always the story, and the story was important, but it was much easier to tell that story back then because you weren't trying to do the wow moments. You were trying to get them emotionally invested in the story that you're telling in the ring.
Right.
And it is a 15-minute soap opera.
Right.
In essence, your opening match, real fast. A lot of real quick, smaller guys, usually, and the night would build, not just each match.
Right.
There were some matches that were more important than others. We were lucky enough to have cable access TV,
right.
So we were able to build these stories, but you still you weren't going to see the end of the story unless you came to the live event.
Right. Okay.
And so it was very important to tell those stories, and even if you hadn't seen the TV and you came to the show, there was still a build-up, a beginning, a middle, and an end of the story in almost every match. And if it wasn't the end of the story, it was, oh my gosh, you're going to see these guys in the ring again, pretty soon, because they haven't finished telling their story. They haven't finished the business that they had with this other team or this other guy. And so it was formulated to tell the story. It's always been that way.
Yeah.
Tell the story in the ring. And so the great thing about then was it was easy to be good, but also to keep it simple.
Sure.
So that you're not blowing everything up every time somebody steps in the ring. It's harder nowadays to get people emotionally invested in what you're trying to do all night long. You never want to be the match that loses the crowd.
Right. Yeah.
So you've got to do your job. You've got to tell your story. And everybody that's done that and been successful has lasted a long time in the business.
I can tell you said something that is 100% correct. You don't want to be the match that blows the TV show.
Yeah.
Because if you are, look on TikTok the next day, and everybody will tell you,
We wish you well in your future
yeah,
endeavors.
yes. So, talk to us about the locker room. How was the locker room? How important is the locker room to you? And how important is it to just shut up and listen to the legends in the locker room?
Oh, there are some legends that I absolutely loved because they would, they'd watch the other matches. They'd give the guys constructive criticism about, you could do this a little bit better, or what if you did this and this? But they weren't trying to reinvent the wheel with all the guys that were in the locker room, and and the guys in the locker room appreciated the feedback. They weren't going to get a 20-minute lesson. They were just going to get, yeah, this was good, this was good, this was good. Watch out for this. If you guys wrestle again, watch out for this because this could have been a disaster moment for you. And so for the most part, I didn't get to spend as much time in the locker room as the guys did.
Okay.
Because if I'm ring announcing, I'm sitting out next to the ring.
Right.
And if I'm refereeing, I'm out there 1/3 of the time.
Okay.
And I'm back in the back, either getting ready for the next match and I always tell the guys, I don't need to know every spot. If you need to tell me something that I need to watch out for, that will keep us all safe, tell me. Otherwise, I don't want to know anything.
Right.
Because I want to call it legitimately in the ring. I want to be the guy that acts like he's the guy in charge. And, if there's something I need to know, like on tag matches, the big trick is, double teaming the guy when you're,
right.
They're beating up the guy when the other guy pulls you off to the side and he's talking to you. If I need to know that, just
right.
tell me in the ring. Just come with me. Those are my favorite words because I'm going to miss something. And the crowd's going to yell at me because I'm missing something. But he said come with me, so I went with him.
Absolutely. So now,
but it is great to be in the locker room, and there are some that were more willing than others.
Right.
Some guys came in for the payday. Some guys came in to make a difference, and help guys out.
So if I say the words, wow, we just created an absolute magic tonight, what match that you were in, either wrestling, announcing, ref, roller derby, what match can you say that was the first thing you said, wow, we just created magic?
I've had a number of those. One of them was the Golden Boy Greg Anthony. He was the AIWF champion for a while. He's got his own promotion down in Dyersburg, Tennessee. It was him against Jerry the King Lawler. This was at Fort Smith, Arkansas, and it was unbelievable because everybody knew Jerry's shtick. If the strap goes down, that's it. And but Greg and Jerry said, let's do something unexpected and make it memorable, because Jerry's in the main event anyway. So as a result, you're going through and you're going, what is it that they could do that nobody would expect to see, and nobody would expect to see the Golden Boy Greg Anthony defeat Jerry Lawler.
Right.
Because Jerry's the star. I mean, he's the guy
absolutely.
he's the king of Memphis.
Yeah.
But it happened. Unfortunately, I was refereeing and I got bumped, and it took me a little time to get back up. And something had to have happened. I couldn't tell you what it was because I was knocked down and groggy.
Right.
But it would what tickled the crowd the most was Jerry got his revenge.
Right.
But it wasn't against Greg Anthony. Jerry took me out,
Oh.
and I was honored.
Okay.
Because-
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Because Jerry said we got to twist this up a little bit. Let's see. So, you'll miss the dirty work, and I'll get pinned, and then everybody's screaming at me. The crowd screaming at me. Jerry's screaming at me. He says, "Can't you see? He used this towel to do this." And I go, I didn't see it. I did. I was down on the ground. I got knocked out.
Right.
And so he goes, all right. Well, he turns around and walks and takes a step, and then all of a sudden, he drops the strap. And everybody knew what was going to happen when he dropped the strap.
Yeah.
And it was me that he took out instead of Greg Anthony.
Wow.
And so I was pleased and proud to get a pile driver from Jerry the King Lawler.
Nice. I want to get a lot of more things, and you've covered a lot that I've had in my notes. So I'm going to jump in because, the Cauliflower Alley Club and National Connection, 2010 to now. What does it mean to be the senior ring announcer for the famous reunion events? Working with Herb Simmons, SICW, Cauliflower Alley Club, all those legends that I would love to be able to partake in. I want to get there one year. What does it mean to you, Mr. Simon, when we say CAC?
I am a lifetime member of Cauliflower Alley Club. I from my first one in 2011 to today, I've been a lifetime member for 10 years now, and it's the best $300 I've spent. I am proud to be a lifetime member. I'm proud to have been the senior ring announcer. Last year, they started, or 2 years ago, they started a new wrestling night on Sunday nights, and it's run by Sin Bodie, who is Kiz Arney, and but Sin wanted to do the show a little bit differently. He's doing what they call the show is called On the Fly.
Yes.
He gets all the wrestlers, puts all the baby faces on this side of the room, all the heels on this side of the room on one wall, and then there's seats around the other three walls. And last year it was him, another Mr. X, and Dr. Tom Pritchard. Were the three guys at ringside. And basically what they do is they say, all right, you give me you over there and you over there, and Tom, get me a referee. So I ran the referees the last 2 years.
Okay.
And I refereed as well. So I got a chance to get a little shine as well. And so they would, they'd pick them, they'd send them in the ring. They'd tell the referee, I want this guy to go over. That's all they told the referee. Everything that happened in the ring was on the fly.
Wow.
They created magic, and it's great. One of the things that I always enjoy about the show is that in the front row, every year, is a young lady by the name of, well, she's not entirely young anymore because she's somebody's mother, but it is, her name is Atta Johnson. And Atta sees me every year and says, we're going to get our picture together, right? I said, yes, ma'am, we are. We sure will. Well, Atta Johnson happens to be the mother of Dwayne Johnson.
Wow.
And Atta makes it a point to make sure that we get our picture taken together every year.
That's awesome.
That's one of the magic moments for me when I go to Cauliflower Alley, is seeing Atta, seeing a number of big stars, And I've had my picture with CM Punk, Ace Steel, who is one of his best friends from Chicago, and he worked Second City. He's part of the Second City Saints.
Yep.
Last year we had Santos Escobar there to
Yep.
induct his father, give
Nice.
his father the award.
Wow, that's awesome.
Every year and I know they published the list of a number of the honorees coming up. Jimmy Corderas is going to be the referee. He gets the referees award, the Charlie Smith referees award this year. It's 3 or 4 days of just all wrestling, all the time. I saw Jerry Jarrett right before he passed away. He came out because Jeff got an award one year,
Yeah.
and it's always fun. Everybody is there for one reason, and it's for fellowship.
Right.
And so, being the senior ring announcer, I passed that torch on to a young man from Canada by the name of Joe Hagan. Joe's been ring announcing for 5 or 6 years now at Cauliflower Alley, and that gave me the opportunity to get back into the ring because I've lost 80 pounds in the last year and a half, and I'm in much better shape now than I've ever been,
Nice.
even the first time I was refereeing.
Nice.
So I want to be in the ring, and it's
Absolutely.
given me a chance to do that.
Wow. I went to, just real quick, then we're gonna wrap it up with USA Championship Wrestling. But yeah, you're so right. Yeah, I was part of one convention as a vendor 3 years ago at River City WrestleCon, and I was there early set up. I walked around and I seen Jimmy Hart with his microphone.
What a great guy.
Yeah, and he's just sitting there. I walked up to him and he said, "How you doing?" I think we talked for 25 minutes.
Yeah.
Just genuine. I bet you I could say, "Hey, what's going on?" We'd start that conversation over again. So, I cannot imagine.
You brought up Jimmy Hart and USA Championship Wrestling.
Yeah.
Jimmy would work for Burt Prentice, who, of course, was one of the great wrestling minds ever. And Jimmy is such a humble man, and to this day, he will set up chairs in the arena. He'll help with the ring. He just, and what he's doing is setting the example for everybody else in the business. If I can do it, you can do it too. Get in here and help. I've always helped with the ring because I think, we can't do a show unless we've got a ring.
Absolutely.
And USA Championship Wrestling, after traditional wrestling, championship wrestling went out of business, Burt Prentice, I was doing the closed captioning for them, for
Okay.
their TV show.
Yeah.
And Bert says, "Why don't you come over? I can always use an extra hand. If you want to referee, you can referee. You want to ring announce, that's fine. Or if you want to be my promoter on TV,
Right.
you can do that." So one of the great thrills, because Bert had an absolute great mind for the business and for telling stories. And it was an absolute honor to work for Burt Prentice, and I miss him dearly, because he's one of the great minds in the business.
2 more questions, sir. What do you hope the next generation of independent wrestling referees learns from watching you and your tapes in your career? What do you hope that What do you want to hope that you play your left?
I was given 3 pieces of advice. You keep your eyes open, you keep your ears open, and you keep your mouth shut. You will learn so much from the people that have come before you just by observing. And if you have questions, don't be afraid to ask, but don't be the main point of the conversation.
Okay.
Let them teach you, because they've been there, they've
Got it.
done it.
Got it.
They know the business better than you do.
Right.
Learn from them.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. So as we walk into this onto the podium to receive your award, well, who's the first person that you're going to thank?
Probably Steve Murphy, because he was willing to take a chance on a guy who had never refereed wrestling before and put him in the main event. and you know, of course, there's so many people that have been a part of this journey. You know, go back to the roller derby, go back to MVWA, all of the stars that I have worked with over the years. I was fortunate enough to pick Sunny up in her better days from the Little Rock Airport. We had a show in Pine Bluff. I picked her up from the airport, and I said, "Would you mind if I got a picture with you?" She says, "Absolutely not. I don't mind at all." And she says, "Here." She took off her Hall of Fame ring and put it on my hand, put it on my fingers, and we took the picture together. And I've got that picture in my Facebook somewhere.
Okay.
I can't remember where it's at, but I've had my picture taken with so many wonderful people. You know, U.S. Championship Wrestling. I've worked with Jeff Jarrett, Superstar Bill Dundee, Jerry Lawler, Burt Prentice, the Colorado Kid, Mike Rapata, former NWA champion.
Yeah.
When I worked in Waterloo, Iowa, at the Thez Tragos wrestling show, I worked with Harry Smith, who's Davey Boy's son.
Yeah.
I've worked with Jackie Fargo.
Okay.
Taught me how to strut. Tommy Dreamer, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Jay Lethal, all of these guys that I've worked with in independent shows. I didn't go to see them do their business. They worked with me, and I was just absolutely blessed.
What an honor.
You know, and the list goes on. You know, Mickey James, Matt Hardy, King Mabel, Nick Dinsmore, who is Eugene, and Trevor Murdoch. We had a main event in Little Rock, Arkansas. Eugene and Trevor Murdoch. And you could see that Trevor was a little bit out of shape, and I was refereeing the match. It was the main event.
Huh?
Eugene, while I'm checking him, he says, "I'm going to make Trevor throw up. I'm going to wear him out." And I said, "Okay." And sure enough, after the match was over, Trevor takes off, hits the door, and loses it outside because he just wore him out.
Wow.
And it was great because Nick Dinsmore, a great guy. You know, I've worked with Tim Storm, who is now one of the voices of NWA wrestling.
Yeah.
Tim was our champion for a while. Lance Hoyt, who is now in the Don Callis family. He worked in USA or with Traditional Championship Wrestling. Barrett Brown, great youngster from Texas, and beautiful Bobby Eaton. What a guy!
Yeah.
I had Chris Cruz, beautiful Bobby Eaton, Matt Riviera, Golden Boy Greg Anthony, Jeff Jett, and all of those guys and Bobby in my living room when we taped the first show of U.S. Traditional Championship Wrestling for YouTube. And so I've been a lucky guy in my life. I've been blessed by all of the people who have allowed me to be a part of their shows, their promotions, you know, be a part of their matches, whether it's ring announcing or otherwise. I've always had a great time, and I'm sure my Hall of Fame speech will be shorter than this, but it has absolutely been a blessing, and you know, I just thank everybody that's given me the opportunity along the way.
Well, I appreciate you coming on the show and sharing your stories, and I know I could have you back on the show in a few months and we can talk more wrestling if that's okay with you.
Absolutely, and we'll talk about the Hall of Fame.
And we'll have to get up. You have to let me know about it. So let's shoot for a couple months from now, maybe November or so. I'll hook up with you again. And so knowing that, as we close, are there any final thoughts that you would have for fans that are listening or listening at it later? What are your final thoughts? What can you tell them?
The the art of professional wrestling is dwindling. Uh, I mean, there aren't as many smaller promotions as there used to be. You used to be able to go every Saturday night somewhere within a 50-mile radius and go see a show. In St. Louis, that's still true. But in most cases, these promotions struggle to get through and make enough money to keep going. So if you see professional wrestling in your area, it won't be WWE quality in some cases. In some cases, they will surprise you because these are guys that are going out and giving their all to entertain you. So please do everybody a favor. Do all these wrestlers a favor. Do yourself a favor. Don't sell that short. Absolutely go watch a wrestling show.
Awesome. Well, there you guys have it. Stay tuned. We're going to take a real brief pause as I introduce our next guest, Mr. Tom Simon. Thank you for coming on the show.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it. Be blessed tonight. And I am thankful that I had a chance to talk to you.
Sunday, July 19th, Andres in St. Louis County in Lime. Tickets are $30 in advance. You get a meal, and all of these great speeches and Hall of Famers and the old Hall of Famers will be there as well. Come see us.
There you go. Thank you again, Mr. Simon. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Good evening, everybody. Again, we are not done here on Huge Pop Entertainment. Our guest, another guest tonight, he's a true pioneer of St. Louis Squared Circle. He's a man shared the locker room with the traded WWE legend Randy Orton during explosive South Broadway days. He shook up the airways, revolutionized local media with Absolute Wrestling Radio, and never, and I mean never, was afraid to stir up the pot. A master on the microphone and the newest inductee into the independent St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame. Lace up your boots and get ready for the wild ride, ladies and gentlemen. Put your hands together as we bring on board Mr. Mark Bland. How you doing today, Mr. Mark?
Scott, what's going on? Thank you so much for having me, sir.
No problem. I don't know if you heard my introduction, but I mentioned something. I mentioned that you shared the squared circle with Randy Orton back in the day. What can you tell us about Mark as a kid growing up watching wrestling?
A young Mark Bland is watching Channel 11 on Sunday mornings after Tarzan. Wrestling at the Chase would start, I believe. And the reason I know this is because Sanka was the sponsor of Tarzan. So I remember that vividly. And so Wrestling at the Chase would come on, and a young Mark Bland would be stuck in front of the TV watching all of his favorites and enjoying his life at that time. That's what I would be doing. Probably finding my brother, trying a sleeper hold on him or something like that. You know, the typical things a young person who thinks about these things and dreams about them for the first time would do.
If you don't mind, I'd like to share a story about my brother. You mentioned your brother. I shared a story with my brother, a wrestling story. We're watching Saturday night's main event with Sid Vicious. What do I smell? I smell a power bomb, right? So my mom and dad warned me, do not let your brother, who is only 7, come in your room. He needs some sleep. Don't let him come in your room to watch the show.
Right.
Knock on the door. Brother says, hey, Scott, can I come in? I said, sure. Come in, but you got to be quiet. We don't want mom and dad to hear us. What does dummy me do? I pick my brother up in the position, and I power bomb him. His feet hit, knocks the light shade off, which is glass, by the way, smashes to the floor, breaks. Before I could get anything picked up, my dad comes up and said, he looked at me, and I knew that I was in trouble. So, but
these moments kind of set themselves up, is what I'm saying.
Right. So I want to start. I don't want to miss out on this. The Hall of Fame. How did it feel when you were inducted into the Independent St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame alongside fellow members like Luke Roberts?
It was an amazing feeling. Like it was a pleasure. It was, you get into a business, right? And I think it depends on the type of person you are. Something that they never talk about in pro wrestling that I think is interesting is that there's two types of wrestlers. And if you know pro wrestlers and you talk to them, they'll tell you there's two types of pro wrestlers. There's the ones who like the show aspect and like the performance aspect of the business, right?
Right.
And then there's the ones who like the athletic aspect of the business. The idea of the old pillow fight on the bed with your brother, and you didn't hold back, and you would throw the clotheslines, and you would just whip them into those corners, and you would take those belly to backs and all that. Like that kind of vibe and what you are looking for in the fight that you're kind of thinking, oh, that's something I'm catered for, right? Like, so when you're young, right? When you're fighting with your brother, we were talking about brothers, right? You're fighting with your brother and whatever like that. Yeah, you're going to lay it in on each other pretty heavy, but you're not trying to kill each other, or mom and dad are going to basically ruin every holiday for the next umpteen weeks, right?
Right. Yep.
So you lay it in good. What you do when you get older is you go, all right, okay. Now, you got to understand, when I started in this business, yes, MMA does exist. It has been around for a while. The Ultimate Fighting Championships is something that's there, but we're in the 90s, okay? The Ultimate Fighting Championships haven't been picked up by Dana yet. They haven't turned into what they would eventually become with UFC. Right. So that wasn't really something that was something that certain people gravitated towards. Is what it came down to. Yeah. And other people gravitated towards the wrestling business like I did. And, with Wrestling of the Chase being such a big thing in St. Louis, especially in the 80s to kids, or even the 70s to kids, my point being is like MMA wasn't as popular, wasn't like a focal mainstream sport at that time. So wrestling was. So you get into wrestling, I'm looking for dudes who want to throw down a little bit. Right. I want to lay it in.
Right.
Dude, me and Orton always like that. Me and Ace Strange always like that. It doesn't matter if you find someone that likes to lay it in, likes to have a good match, doesn't mind if they take a couple shots on the face here and there. And you're like I said, the shots you're taking shots, but they're not like full out trying to really rip your head off type shots. So it's like, yeah, you're getting tagged, but you're holding in. You know what I'm saying? And here's the thing: pro wrestlers, like I said, they could take a hell of a beating. It's funny going down this road. I shared something with you earlier today. It was a little thing that I had posted about my opinions on. I guess Bully Ray had decided to jump into this. I want to fight Josh Barnett, MMA legend and icon. And I said, no, that's not a good idea. Not that Bully can't fight, and it's not that Bully can't take a beating. Like I just said, I like a good beating myself. I like to take it and get thrown into the ribs. Some guys like the athletic aspect of the business. I was one of those guys. You can take that type of a beating, but it's the ground and pound. It's when you start wrestling with the punches. See, you're used to wrestling, right? The wrestling part you're used to. So if it hits the ground and you're wrestling around, you're going to be used to that as a pro wrestler. That's going to be common to you. Even trying to escape and get moves around and turn things around on people and all that like that. But the MMA guy, he's gonna be doing the same things, except for he's gonna be looking for like punches and shots that he's going to be trying to take to your face, and then when he gets on top of you, it's going to be rubbing you down and punching you in the jaw and in the forehead and the side of the head. Things that you're not used to in normal fighting. Like you're just not used to that, and it's just who people are. And so like I was like, I don't know if that's a good idea. That's just a different style. And so like, some people just like to lay it in a little bit. That's the kind of business they like to get in. So when I went up there, you asked about my Hall of Fame and how I felt. And, when I first got into business, I wanted to be one of the best. Me and Orton knew we were the best. We knew it. Like it was just clear to us. Like there was just no one that was moving as smoothly as we were in the ring. No one in ECW, nobody that we were seeing. There were guys that were luching and stuff like that, but there was nobody on the indie circus. No one was wrestling around the guys that we were working with at that time that were moving kind of like us. We were bigger dudes too. Like I'm 6'4", he's 6'5". Like we're big dudes. So like to see dudes moving at our size around like that, that's a Ron Powers. Running real smooth, but Ron's a thick, big dude. He's a power guy. Like he's there to boot you in the corner and stuff like that, you know. So seeing us doing things that we were doing at our size, at our speeds, it's a little different. And so like when you get into the business, you start to train and you want to get really good, and you get really good at what you do. You know what I'm saying? You get really smooth with the athletic, but because you have that part. And people notice that, and you're respected for that. And there's other individuals in the business that know that you were good at that, and this, that, and the other. And so that's what leads more towards your Hall of Fame, as opposed to the performance aspect. Of course, I could get over with any crowd. Right. Getting over is nothing. Like that's easy stuff. Like that's just that's just pushing buttons. Right. And for a guy like me I've got just one of those personalities. Randy's got one of those personalities. Like certain people, like, dude, what's Randy better as, a heel or a face?
Heel.
Okay. There it is. And the reason he is, it's just natural. It looks natural. It feels natural. When you see Randy come out as a heel, you go, yeah, that makes sense. Looks like that's about the type of person that he might be. Okay. I'm not saying he's a bad person. What I'm saying is like, that vibe you can tap into real easy. So can I. There's other people that can. A Stranger could tap into that vibe real easy. A lot of good guys that could tap into that stuff. But
Randy
with the Hall of Fame, it makes me feel good. It made me feel good in the fact that I had earned their respect, and they wanted me to know that I meant something to this business in their eyes. And I appreciated that. And that's why in my Hall of Fame speech, it was more about those people showing up just as much as it was me getting there too. Because think about it, it takes two to tango.
Right.
And those matches have to happen. Those people have to be there. Right?
Right.
All the names I'm mentioning, they got to show up and do their things too, so that I can look good and they can look good at the same time. So it requires a lot. And remember, I've got headaches and problems in my life. Scott, you got headaches and problems in your life, and everybody's got headaches and problems in their life, and they're all different problems.
100%.
Some are health related, some are just personal relationship related. Everybody's just got different problems. So what you're fighting through to get to that show is different than what I'm fighting through to get to that show. And it might be huge problems for any other people that look at both of those issues. They might go, whoa, I can't deal with either of those. Like, so it just depends on, and so that was important to me. I wanted those people to know that I did recognize that. I did notice that. And I don't think that the crowd, necessarily always, just because they cheer you for your name loud or they clap for you, that doesn't necessarily mean that they always see those little things, When I see you set your bag down in the locker room, dead tired, running through pouring rain just to get into the venue at 4:00 early, you know what I'm saying? And you got a bag of McDonald's just soaking wet. I feel for you. Just as another human being in the pro wrestling business, and just as somebody else who has to deal with that, I feel for you. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So I get it.
100%, man. And so MMWA and SICW, South Broadway, that's the area you're from. How did you ever imagine that you'd be celebrated the way that you were celebrated?
No. I wouldn't say that I ever felt that I never felt that I was going to be celebrated the way I was celebrated. You got to understand, my path in the pro wrestling business and where it led, and the people, I was one of those guys that the people that needed to know me knew me, and certain individuals took to me, others just didn't. And it's a bit, listen, I work in the world of politics now. I speak politics. I discuss it on the radio. And I've been doing this for decades at this point. So I understand the world of politics. I understand locker rooms. I understand the way the politics works in the wrestling business. Um, people have even said to me, Mark, you should run for office. Okay. And I'm talking within the last few years. They said you should run for office. I just know that I don't rub people the right way sometimes. I just one of those people that rubs certain individuals the wrong way. They just would rather do without me. I'm not their cup of tea. That would be the best way to say it. I'm just not a person's cup of tea. And so you have to want to be a lot of people's cup of tea to really be popular enough to really get into that world and to be now you could be a mover or shaker, you could be an influencer behind the scenes, kind of like me. I know people behind the scenes. I can still get to people at this place and that place to talk to them about this and that in the world of pro wrestling if I need to. And like all that stuff, I can still do that. I'm just not out there like that over there. So.
Okay. So you are a very powerful speaker, and I love it because it just makes the show that much better and energetic. So what is your favorite story that you can tell with your experience with Randy Orton before he went to OVW? And did you see the potential in the Legend Killer when you were working with him doing your thing?
Randy was a natural. Both of us were natural talents when it came to just the wrestling business in general. Like we picked up things very, very, very quickly. We didn't waste a lot of time on stuff. But we do, Randy, you could just tell. You could just tell he had the look, he had the vibe. He just had to lean out. That was his thing. He needed to lean out, and he knew it. But at that time in wrestling, see, you got to remember that's when the Rock's all oiled up, and them roids are going big in the business, and everybody's moving things, and it's like that could be a very attractive situation potentially when you're trying to do things. A guy like that never even looked that direction. And he didn't need to. He was just great at athletics. Like he was going to put in the work in the weight room every single time. And I watched Randy put the time and the effort in the weight room. I've lifted with him before. So this is not something that I couldn't see all the aspects and the pieces coming together. Now, don't get me wrong. Having a dad who is a generational talent himself doesn't hurt by any means. But at the same point, Randy, definitely, listen, we both had the same theory in life. We do want your respect, okay? But we don't need you to just hand it to us. You just give us an inch. We'll earn the other 99.
Right.
That's kind of how we work. You give us an inch and we'll earn the other 99 is how we do it. And so that's all we want. We want that 1% of your trust, and then we'll give you the other 99 you're looking for to make that 100 whole exactly the way you think it should be in a relationship that's like that. And that's kind of like the way that we focused on our business aspects and the way we worked with individuals in the business too. The kind of trust that we wanted to put into them and we wanted them to put into us.
So talk to us about training. What training was like for you, Mark?
Tiring, man. Dude, listen, when you first start in pro wrestling and you're taking bumps for the first time, people don't understand. And by the way, when I'm doing it, I'm doing it at the old South Broadway Athletic Club Annex building where we would do all of our training, where the boxers would also do their training for Golden Gloves and everything else for South Broadway. Really talented boxers would come through there all the time. Amazing talent. But when we would wrestle, that ring, they didn't have jacks. The ring didn't have jacks. Like the jack that was in the ring was like blown out. It was busted. The only time that the ring hit right was when you were doing like a superplex. Outside of that, like even on a straight suplex, you weren't getting any love. When you hit that ring, it was a mat. You were on a wrestling mat, like at a gym, and you were doing all the bumps off the ropes, but straight to just a mat is what it was. And it hurt. It was painful. That one was. Now, everybody else's training is not the same. Everybody trains in different places. I got people that can verify all of this because they trained in the same ring I did. They were there for years and years and years. Okay? So This isn't one of these things where it's like, oh, you're just trying to say your ring. Nope, nope. My ring just didn't have a good jack in it, and it was busted out. It was horrible. And so, like, it was a dead spot ring, and so that's what you had to work with. Tough, painful. So, I mean, think about this. You want to be a pro wrestler, right? All right, first things first. You got to want to wrestle. Do you like to wrestle? You got to want to get in there to physically tangle it up with somebody. You got to be willing to get into a fight with another individual and it not bother you. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying like you're just a demented individual that's just going around beating up people. No. You have to be willing to accept and get into these type of altercations and things, because things can go sideways sometimes. You're dealing with grown men. Sometimes they're having some emotional whatevers that day over some other stuff, and it can leak out. Sometimes it's just the way things are going in the match. Some people are perfectionists, man. And when it's not going well in the match or it's not hitting on the spots that they want, they start to get angry at themselves. And when they do that, they start lashing out in different ways. You know what I'm saying? I said, dude, one night in Indiana, dude, I took it to a do with a chair. Hardcore in the main event of this one wrestling match, and I busted open his forehead, but not before he basically almost gave me my ocular socket into my back of my throat. So it was justified in what I was coming after doing. But you also got to remember too, you make a move like that, you're in a town that you're not familiar with, around people that are not your friend because they pay you to be there. And by the way, they paid you to be there. Do you see what I'm saying? So like, they're not going to have like they should have your side because they want you on the show. But once the show's over, they don't have to have your side anymore is what I'm trying to say. And so like, you got to be careful when you make moves like that, because that can get out of control, Yeah. Let's just say I didn't stick around in the locker room long after the show. I can tell you that.
Was there ever a moment during training that you said, nope, this isn't for me?
No. Okay. But I can tell you I have watched athletes from other professional sports get into a ring in front of me for a week or two and then make a decision that is not what they feel that they want to do in a consistent basis. Okay. So I go, okay. And they're very good at their sports. They're professionals. So
what was the moment that you said, yep, Mark Bland's going to be a wrestler? Yep, that's it.
Okay. I had a friend named Jason. Me and Jason were best friends, and Jason was killed in 1997. Now, to preface this real quick, we would watch Monday Night Wrestling. We would watch WCW Nitro, and we would watch Raw. And you got to remember, we're talking 95, 96, so we're watching Scott Hall and Kevin Nash show up over there, but like we haven't turned into the Monday Night Wars of 97, 98, 99 yet. We haven't gotten down the road enough yet. And so like we had talked about maybe going to the WCW power plant because we had heard about it, and being a tag team. Because I'd always wanted to be a wrestler when I was a kid, and he was like, oh, dude, it would be a blast to get in there and do this stuff. So, like, we were thinking about doing that stuff. Well, time went by. Life goes the way it goes, as you know. And Jason passed away, was killed. And I was depressed, man. I lost my best friend. It was a horrible year. Life was crappy. Oh, I guess I'm on the internet. It was shitty. It was just bad. It was bad. And at a certain point, like, what do you do? Like, do you sit there and do you just keep feeling sorry and feeling like crap because of stuff? Or do you maybe just try to find something to get your mind off stuff? So that's kind of how I looked at it at first, was just like, I just want to get my mind off of it, and it took my mind off of it a bit quick. But I also realized quickly once I started doing this stuff and kind of like learning a little bit, right? Getting into learning bumps and stuff like that. I kind of liked it. This was kind of like my cup of tea. Like I was cool with this. You know what I'm saying? Like they were teaching me safety first and making sure that I was doing things properly. But then they were also showing me at the end of practice, this is what it looks like. This is what we're working towards. Like this is what it eventually is going to work to. You
Right.
know, and I wasn't in there, but I was watching them do it right in front of me. So I'm like, okay, I can do that too if they can do that, and they can
Yeah.
show me how to do that. So
Right.
that's kind of how it worked out for me. And then I made my decision to stay at MMWA.
All right. So we're gonna switch a little bit, and we're gonna catch up on wrestling here in a little bit. But I want to hit aspects of your career. In 2008, you pivoted from and launched Absolute Wrestling Radio on
Yes.
1380 AM.
Mhm.
How difficult was it to switch from being the guy taking the bumps
Mm.
to being the voice analyzing the wrestling scene?
Um, that came out of just a love, and I knew someone who knew me, and a radio person that knew me, and so like we just kind of put all those pieces together real quick and turned it into a wrestling and MMA show. So we discussed both wrestling and MMA. We were on a Fox Sports affiliate, and we enjoyed it. Our station was right down there above Show Me's on the landing in St. Louis.
Yeah.
And we would have delicious wings after shows quite often. But outside of that, like it was fun. Like it was entertaining, and coming up with the show, like being that voice, like it was nice. Like it allowed me to analyze things, to say things that I wanted to say about stuff I was witnessing. Do you see what I'm saying? Like it allowed me to put my opinion out there. And by the way, you know, a lot of this is time periods when people aren't thinking about podcasts. They're not thinking about, I want to be a podcast, right? You know, Scott, like, let's be honest, you got Huge Pop Entertainment today. It's 2026.
Yep.
You were live in 2008.
Yep.
Mark was already the podfather over here from 03.
Yeah.
He's 5 years deep by that point, working out his deals with other countries and stuff.
Yeah.
But what were you doing in 08? You could have been doing Huge Pop Entertainment. You could have been doing this. Were you a big fan of wrestling back then?
Absolutely.
How long you been a wrestling fan, Scott? Well, has anybody interviewed you ever, Scott? Like, what's the deal with Scott? Like, Scott, hey, first off, what part are you from? St. Louis or the St. Louis area?
No, from Florida. Are born and raised in Michigan. From Florida, and live currently in the Panhandle of Florida.
So you guys are down in Florida.
Yeah, Fort Walton Beach.
Wow. And do you go to the beach often?
Not as often as I should.
Do you guys got a lot of public beaches, like where you can easily access?
Yes, absolutely. They're all over the place.
Okay. I was just curious. Like, I know that there's probably people with houses on the beach and all that. Like, and I'm sure there was public beaches, but at the same point, living around a place like that, I'm sure you find other options too. So it's like,
I mean, let's be honest. My wife and I run an emergency shelter caring for 9 foster kids at a time, and they're our main focus. And I use this podcast as my way of self-care. And I love
this is your therapy.
This is my therapy. I'll be honest with you. And I love doing it.
So do you watch all the wrestling shows?
You want me to be completely honest?
Oh yeah, go ahead. Be
No,
completely
no.
honest. Okay, well, that's fair. That's fair. There's a lot to watch. Like you can't see Now you try to keep up on stuff. Obviously, you know,
Right.
you might get a rundown. You know, some overview stuff. And I remember being in your position, so like I understand what it's like to host a show that talks about wrestling and professional wrestlers and all that other stuff and interviewing them.
Right.
So like I get it, what it's like to be in your show. And so Fort Walton Beach. What brought you down there? You're doing foster kids. Like, how'd you get down there?
Well, my wife and I decided, probably 12 years ago, to move from Michigan to Chattanooga, Tennessee, to do our first stint of foster care.
Lookout Mountain, love it. I had a Civil War reenactor gave me breakfast there.
Nice.
In Chattanooga.
Yep. And then my parents moved when they were alive. They snowbirded down in Destin. So we visited him and we found this where we're working now. We found we toured this place and I was like, I don't know how long my parents are gonna be around, and I want to spend some time with them. So my wife and I decided let's move from Chattanooga to Fort Walton Beach and let's continue doing this, and that's what we did. So,
all right, fair enough. I understand.
And I'll answer
That's
the
cool.
question: do I watch wrestling? I watch Monday Night Raw and SmackDown, and then sometimes I hit AEW, which I love AEW a lot. But my big focus when I started a podcast was I didn't want to be like everybody else. I didn't want to be these content creators that all they did was complain, and fight with each other about the main stuff. When I first started this podcast, was the first time I seen an independent show, and I watched it down here in Panama City, and I fell in love with independent wrestling because then I thought to myself as I'm riding back from that show, I'm like, hey, why can't Huge Pop Entertainment be a platform to give these indie guys a shot to share their stories?
That's fair.
Hardly anybody's doing that. When I decided to do that, I'm like, I'm going to do that. I'm going to be unique. I'm going to be independent, strong, get the legends out there. So I reached out to a bunch of legends, independent wrestlers, independent promotions.
You should have Reckless Youth on.
Reckless Youth. I'll write that down.
Oh, Reckless Youth in the late 90s, like 99 through 01. Reckless Youth was like, that's what AJ wanted to be. That's what CM Punk wanted to be. Everybody wanted to be Reckless Youth. Those dudes all wanted to be Reckless Youth for real, because that dude had it made. That was Darby Allin. That was Darby Allin before Darby Allin was Darby Allin. Like, that's like 3 generations almost to Darby Allin ahead of him. Like,
yeah.
That's wow, man. Reckless Youth is great, dude. He's a fantastic. But he would be a great indie talent to have on and talk about.
But yeah, that's my goal. And you were talking about radio stations, and I'll be honest, it's a pipe dream. But my dream is to be on radio. But I thought to myself, I'm doing a podcast. It's pretty much radio. It's my opinions. It's my show. I can give my opinions of whatever I freaking want. And so I'm just satisfied.
Well, radio's it's a mixed game. Like you can either pay to play. You can always pay to play. The game of pay to play is always there. Listen, there's always a sales agent at a radio station that's willing to give you an hour on the radio if you would like it for $1,000 a week or whatever. Okay, but listen, $1,000 a week, and you can be on the radio. So for $1,000 a month, you can have a weekly show on the radio. Now, some people, they have the businesses or the contacts, or they're dealing in businesses that have the kind of revenue and revenue streams that can do advertising with a deep enough pocket to maybe cover a $4,000 thing like that. And they might do $30,000 sponsorship packages and stuff. That does exist. Most radio stations are getting $250, $300, $400 kind of packages.
Right.
Some guys are spending $500 to $1,000. It just depends how big the company is and how far they want to push the situation. So, like, you can find the money, you can find opportunities. There's that. Then the other thing is take your show and impress the hell out of the program director. Make them just like love your show or love your personality, love you. That's the one thing that everybody's always told me. They love talking to me because it's easy to talk to me.
Right.
Like I'm an easy conversation.
Right.
And because I'm an easy conversation, they might not always agree with everything I say, but that conversation's easy. So it's like, Mark's always it's just like with Mark.
Right.
And then you're out. So it works out well for a lot of people.
Awesome.
Others, they talk a different way.
So in your radio time, what was your favorite or most chaotic interview from the Absolute Wrestling Radio?
I would say when Velvet Sky and what's her name showed up, the tag team, and AJ Styles. when they showed up live and came on the show. I mean, honestly, ladies and gentlemen, like, so in 2009, I've never really talked about it like this. Let's talk about it like this, Scott. Let's do it like this. In 2009, I had an idea, ladies and gentlemen. That idea was I was going to do the best and largest angle with legitimate, real athletes and individuals in the market, like legit as it could get. Angle. And I was going to see if I could pull it off. That was the plan. So I reached out first to a person who used to run this thing called Midwest Wrestling, or Missouri Wrestling Revival. I'm sorry, Missouri Wrestling Revival. And I talked to him for a few minutes about it. And I said, this is my idea. And he goes, I don't know. Let me think about this. There might be some people, maybe there's someone we could take this to, but I'm not sure. I, at that time, reached out to a bunch of different promoters, and a bunch of them gave me the blow off, which is fine. And I remembered that. Never forget. Always forgive. All right. Now, so they come back to me a few weeks later, and they go, do you know this dude named Kenny G? And I go, nah, I don't know no dude named Kenny G. He goes, he's out of Florida. He's a wrestling promoter, but he knows a lot of different names and people in the business. I was like, oh, well, shoot, let's talk. Like, send him over my way. So me and Kenny met up. We talked. And when we were done, we knew we were going to work together. We knew it was going to work out. We just knew what we needed to do. He wanted to push something that they were trying to move towards the WWE. Certain individuals were already involved. Like Harvey from WWE and a few other people, and road agent type people. And I was cool with it as long as we could like sell the angle on my side the way I wanted to sell it, which was, hey, I'm defending all these individuals who have opinions and this, that, and the other against the pro wrestler who thinks that his best way to fix this is to punch that thing in the mouth and shut its mouth. So it's going to be the business of wrestling, right? Against the wrestling community, against the internet wrestling. And so I had the radio show, right? Absolute Wrestling Radio.
Right.
And there was a gentleman by the name of Donovan Ruddick. He was a wrestler. And Donovan was great. Brian was a good dude. I got to be careful how I say this, ladies and gentlemen, because I know the background of the individual I'm talking about. But I have to speak from the heart at the time of what I was dealing with and the person I was dealing with. Brian was a worker I hadn't worked with before, 6'9" beast, massive dude. And he had the look, he had the vibe, he had everything they needed for the WWE, and he eventually would go down there. And things wouldn't go the right direction for Brian when it was all said and done. But at that time, Brian was the fodder that we were going to use, Donovan Ruddick. He was going to be the guy I go against. And so I had this whole plan. Mark Bland's going to knock you out. And I was going to get blues players and MMA fighters and all these just different people I could tap into, right? And I was going to have them say, Mark Bland's going to knock you out, and put it on YouTube and get as many people to view that as I could. And, dude, everybody was talking about it. Everybody was talking about it. The angle was solid. The angle was big. And it worked out. When it was all said and done, we even had – people don't even realize – that the NWA World Heavyweight Championship was involved in that angle. Okay. They don't even realize it half the time, because the match to set up everything between me and Donovan happens because I interfere in a situation. He's fighting an individual who is also in the running for the NWA World Heavyweight title at the time. And this is back when NWA doesn't have TV like it does now. Like, it didn't have Power, and it didn't have all these other things. So it was just behind the scenes, and whoever carried the belt, right? You know? And sometimes it was, what's his name? The guy out of Chicago. Punk's friend and all that. Scott, you know who I'm talking about. Cole or whatever his name is. You know, the funny guy.
Right.
He's really funny. The hilarious guy. He was a WWE wrestler for a while. I can't remember his name off the top. Like, God dang it, that's gonna kill me right there. And it's I'm right. I got it on the tip of my tongue. I know who it is. What were we talking about again? I'm so sorry. I got lost on that.
You were talking about Kenny G.
Kenny G, yeah. And so the NWA World Heavyweight title. And so, like, Cahagas, the guy that Brian was going to wrestle a couple of months before he was going to wrestle me, was wrestling to be the number one contender for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. And it was legit belt that after that match that I interfered in that gave Cahagas the win, Cahagas would go on to become the NWA World Heavyweight Champion.
Okay.
And I'm not sure how many times he held that belt, but he is part of the lineage. And so that was a part of that storyline. That had a tangent to it a lot of people didn't know about. Oh, that angle was so over, Scott. I had heat in Kansas City with workers I had never even met, bro.
Wow.
I hadn't even met these people. These were friends of Kenny's that he had been friends with for a long time, and they were coming out of KC. And the night I showed up, I was surrounded.
Jeez.
Oh, they had beef with me. We got to talk to you, dude.
Legitimate.
Like, they thought I was really trying to hurt Kenny.
Wow.
Like, legit trying. Because Kenny, okay. I will not say that Kenny worked the boys. Kenny did not work the boys. He would never do that. I will say this. Kenny probably just loose lips sink ships better than anything else is what he did. And by doing that, it allowed whatever was happening to kind of come off as what's going on, you know, and he's not really giving them a lot. So it was like, but we wanted to blur that line. That was me and Kenny discussed it. Mark, okay, God rest his soul. I love you, Kenny. God rest his soul, honestly. And by the way, his daughter, Santana G from the WWE, a phenomenal, Santana Garrett, a phenomenal talent in her own right. So it's been a long time since I've seen Santana or talked to her, so I hope she's doing really well. But, you know, you got to remember, this is when Santana's just trying to get into the business, and her dad doesn't know what's going to happen, and she don't know what's going to happen, and she's just, you know, living in Florida, and maybe something will happen. Maybe so. This is life at that time for everybody. Everybody's just kind of doing their thing.
Right.
And me and Kenny had this idea that we really wanted to blur those lines so badly. And we wanted to see, and he looked me in the face and he goes, Mark, you understand when we blur these lines, this is going to create some chaos and people are going to be angry with you potentially, things that you're going to say and do. And I go, understood. And he goes, are you willing to deal with the blowback? And I said, 100%. I said, if you got my back, when I need it, I will deal with the blowback.
Nice.
Okay. And he did.
Wow.
They surrounded me there, and he walked right into the middle of that circle. He said, no, you guys come with me. I need to talk to you right now. And he took them off and had that conversation with them, and they didn't want to talk to me. They didn't want to talk to him after it.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I went to Gorilla. I talked to Kenny. He was sitting there. Oh, yeah, they ain't saying much to me tonight. Oh. Yeah, I had to let him in now. And I'm like, I understand. It was necessary at this point. Like, we got to keep things smooth on our end. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
we can't have people just running in and like, nope, that's it, game time. Like, and then all of a sudden
Right.
I'm in the hospital in a coma, and
Right.
Kenny's sitting there going, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. Like that, it's not worth it. Like, at a certain point, but worked out great. It worked out great. And those guys to this day, I give them credit. They took it like the men that they were on the situation. I appreciated that they understood. I apologized, in my own ways on that night. And, guys got our own ways of doing our thing.
Right.
But yeah,
Okay.
that's a memorable thing that happened with the radio station. Kenny G was involved, and he interrupted my show multiple times and would slap my co-hosts around and things like that. Oh yeah. Plus, we were doing that whole angle at the time with it, so it was like all of that all mixed together. It was great.
That sounds like a fun time. So, what's the most single valuable piece of advice you could give an independent wrestler trying to stand out?
Oh. It's not for everyone. You got to understand when it's not for everyone. You also got to understand when you've lost that desire. You have to be willing to walk away.
Okay.
I have seen men in St. Louis in the last 10 years do exactly what I just said. Lost that desire a little bit, really tough to find it, walked away a bit, came back with a fresh new feel, look, and vibe on what they wanted to do and focused on that, and boom, it worked out great for them. But like, it's not for everyone. And if you are in the business and you do like it, you do work in it, you can get burned out. You can get to a point where like you don't want to do this another weekend. Like you skip a weekend or skip a couple of weekends, and before you know it, you're down to one weekend every 2 months. Because bumping in the ring. You got to fly through the air. You got to take that Russian whip. Like you got to do all that stuff. Like you have to do it, or it just doesn't make sense.
Right. Wow.
Sorry, it just doesn't.
Oh, you're right. So when you got inducted, you were alongside Harley Race. The names Harley Race icons like Mischief. How does it feel to see your name next to those guys?
Honored. People like Mischief, who changed the business for female wrestlers behind the scenes, as well as with all of her accomplishments in front of the scene. Do you see what I'm saying? Like people that are dual edged with their sword, and they can do things behind the scenes and in front of the scenes that really help out a lot of people. It's an honor to be, I knew Harley personally. He was me and Harley's relationship was always interesting. You know what I'm saying? He didn't mind me being around. I liked being around. Like I would try to come out to a show here and there. I wasn't around a bunch of shows, and I didn't like get down to Eldon into the Lake of the Ozarks area to be a part of a lot of that as much as I wanted to. I only went down a few times, but I did know Harley. I did talk to him. I did hang out, and he was gracious enough to allow me to be there, to be a part of it, and to help out with certain things if I wanted to. And I did get to learn about some stuff and meet some great people. So, all these things come with the business, but when you get people that are like that are always looking to like help the next generation, they're always willing to put a helping hand out. How can you be anything but honored to be standing next to those individuals? And all I can do to honor those individuals is try to put my hand out and help others as best I can.
Right.
Then again, nobody ever calls me, so I guess I can't help them if they don't call.
That's right. So would you say that induction made it click in your head that your legacy was permanent?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I knew. That kid that's on the picture of my induction plaque and all that. That kid that's on the website. That's that kid that kid at the way he looks in that picture at that age. That's around the time when him and Randy are doing their thing, and that kid right there, he's at the top of his game in that picture. And that kid, he 100% earned his right to be in that Hall of Fame. There ain't nobody in that there are people that are in that Hall of Fame that were in the ring with me, and it's the keeping up. Like it was fun. We had a good time. We all had a good time. I really did. I really did have a good time with a lot of great people, and it was a blessing. It was a blessing to even be inducted. It was a blessing to be a part of it, and I want everybody and urge people to come out on July 19th to Andre's, to the Independent St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame induction ceremony for 2026, and see Dr. Tom Simon, who was just on right before me, and see all the great wrestlers. Big Ben. Big Ben's on that list of people, and people don't know I had a relationship with Ben. It was because of my uncle. My uncle knew him in a different world, in his lawn care business that he had on the side. That was his own world. Like that was what his 9 to 5 and all that was. And so like he knew my uncle through that. And when I first got into wrestling, he was starting his own organization. He was telling my uncle, oh, you need to tell Mark to come with us. Work with us over here. And at that time, St. Louis was very, there was the old way and the new way. The new way was the ECW type guys. The Monday Night Wars people.
Okay.
And by the way, that would be me and Randy coming up in that same mix around 97, 98 in the training center, in the training ring and all that. So like, that's that mix right there. So like we kind of are mixed in with those individuals who are part of that Monday Night War, like starting to like influence people type thing.
Yeah.
But we're before it. Because I was a good year before I saw any of those people start to really filter in. And then, well, yeah. Like.
So looking back at your career, is there a specific match, promo, or moment from your career that defines why you feel or why you are a Hall of Famer? If so, what is it?
You know what? I think some people, Scott, would you agree that I'm a broadcaster yourself?
I'd say so, yes.
That's fair, right? Okay.
Yep.
So could I do probably the play-by-play and commentary for a wrestling show? Absolutely. Okay. All right, cool. So I got that covered. I can get in the ring and I can take the RKO and give it just like Randy can. Got that covered.
Right.
Okay, so performance side's covered. Could I sell the hot dogs? Sure, I could if I need to. Got that covered. Okay, but in the business of wrestling, there's all kinds of things. I've been a manager. Managed Kerry Morton. My last stint I did with Midwest Wrestling Coalition. I was Kerry Morton's manager. And of the Southern Six with NWA. So, like, we had a good time. But I'm just saying I was a manager. Got that covered. So it seems like I heard Dr. Tom talk about breaking rings down. Man, I broke 1,000 rings down. I'm not worried about that. Paid all them dues. Got that covered. Do you see? Kind of a man of every ilk when it comes to the business of professional wrestling. And at Wrestling Over Everything, WOE, I worked with the landlord, the first black promoter that owned a major company in St. Louis.
Right.
I handled the back. I was development. Dynamo Pro, I was the director of operations. There I am. I'm Laurinaitis. Got that covered.
Yep.
I got it all covered. I think that's the thing. Like, there's every position that needed to be played with. I covered it in some form or fashion, and I did it well. And I think that's the thing that overall explains who I am. Shout out to my girl over there, Extreme Kimchi.
There you go. Thank you for shopping on the show, guys. Nikki, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. So you were in a ring with Gary Jackson, Ron Powers, Keith Smith, all from the region. How did working with those guys, those veterans, sharpen your style?
Oh, Gary and Keith are fantastic to work with. Listen, Gary is amazing at helping set up a match. He is one of the best at just sitting there and working out ideas and making it good, but making it simple, making it work for him and making it work for you. Like I love that about Gary Jackson. Guys like Keith Smith. I can't speak enough about how much I respect Keith, and I appreciate the opportunities that he gave me in the business, as well as just our relationship over the years. Like, Keith's an old school warrior. He is from that world, and he does not take any guff off of anyone. He don't care how big you are, and he'll prove it to you. He'll prove it to you the way he puts you down, if he needs to put you down, and he can. And see, that's the thing. A lot of us were kind of like, we were trained by this rougher edge group, like me and Orton. Like, we were that last group of like trained by the old ways guys. Everything after us would start to go down the world of the lucha libre, start to go down the more CM Punk and Darby Allin, and start to go down those roads where the Daniel Bryans of the world would start to stand out a little bit more, a little bit faster pace. That world is going to start to like just be what it is. Not that we couldn't keep up a play. We could. It's just that that's where the next generation kind of was headed. You know what I'm saying? Right. We were kind of that last of the old ways kind of guys, trained the old ways, taught the old ways. Omerta, right? Is that what they say in the mob? Omerta.
Yeah. So Miss Nikki comes back and says, Gary trained me to have a 4-minute match without breaking a hold, fundamental kiss, dress for the job you want.
There you go. Without breaking a hold. Good evening to Jimmy Harris, who we also want to thank for putting together the July 19th situation for the induction in the Hall of Fame at Andres. I hope everybody gets a chance to come out. By the way, there is a website. It's independent St. Louis Wrestling. It's IW. Wait, I have this. I know this. I'm feeling so dumb right now. I apologize. I have the website. It was new to me. I didn't even realize it was there. I'm sorry.
Is this it?
Yep. Here we go. It's istlwhof.com.
Yep.
That's what it is. There it is. istlwhof.com. Independent St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame. There you go. That's what it means. And that's got all your information you need there, tickets you can buy there. But check out that website. That's a quick place to go and get tickets and all the information you need. Plus, it's got all the old induction classes and who's been put in before and all of that. So it's a great website to check out and learn a little bit about St. Louis professional wrestling history.
So near the end of my show, I love doing quick one-word answers.
Okay.
Then I'm going to finish with giving you the mic and letting you drop the mic on whatever you want to tell us. The show. Chop or clothesline?
Chop.
Which one hurts most? Which one hurts most to wake up in the morning? Does it hurt most?
Clothesline hurts worse.
Okay.
To wake up. Listen, when somebody hits you with a solid clothesline, whiplash is almost inevitable.
Okay.
It's almost inevitable. So you're gonna feel it in the neck.
I
The
have to ask
chop,
this,
yeah, you can. The chop, but everybody chops different, so it just depends on who chopped you.
I have to ask this because I work with kids that leave toys everywhere. One of the
Yeah.
toys they leave is Legos. So would you rather get a chair shot or step on Legos?
Okay, this is gonna be weird. So I can't feel my feet. Ladies and
Okay.
gentlemen, from professional wrestling, I developed neuropathy. It killed all the nerves in the bottom of my feet, so can't feel them. My wife is still waiting for us to come across, and she hopes if we take this trip to Hawaii, we come across the ability to walk over coals for some prize. She thinks there's going to be some prize for me to walk over coals, and I'll be able to do it easily. It won't be easy. Eventually, I'll get sepsis in the hospital, but still, I'll do it the day of, and I will pull it off because I won't feel it.
Right.
I'll just get sick down the road. And so, yeah. So my wife, so Legos. I'm going to go with the answer Legos. You probably weren't expecting that, and there you go.
There I go. Walking through the curtain for a main event match, and you hitting the on air light for the high stakes political broadcast. What would you rather do? Walk through that curtain, or would you rather hit the on light for political broadcast?
Pro wrestling is fun. Politics is personal. It's just more personal. It affects your life deeper. I'm sure you, as a person dealing with foster kids, cuts that happen to government programs and things do affect those things. So you end up paying attention to that. Down there, Ron DeSantis going crazy all over Florida. That's a nuts job, right? And Mar-a-Lago stuck right. That's just, oh my goodness. Gee, what is Florida doing to this country? Listen, our country runs like Florida now. Like, you remember Florida Man? We used to talk about Florida Man. That's Trump. Florida Man is running the country now, and look at how your gas price and all. Ladies and gentlemen, we just stepped on it. There it is. Florida Man. You were trying to figure out what Trump. That's Florida Man. He lives in Florida. Mar-a-Lago's in Florida. Ron DeSantis. All of their ideas come from the world of Florida. That's where Pam Bondi's from. All of it. All Florida. Mar-a-Lago. Yep. Florida Man.
That's how we had UFC 250 in the White House. So.
There it is. Dude, I watched it. I'm not going to sit there and say it wasn't. Okay, let's talk about this for a second. There are a lot of people that are like giving liberals crap and this, that, and the other. If you watch the UFC thing, I watched it. Didn't have a problem with it. I didn't feel that it had to be at the White House. I could have taken it or leave it. It didn't matter to me one way or the other. And it wasn't something like if you gave me the option, maybe I probably want to put it at the White House where they put it.
Right.
But my problem I had with it, only problem I had with it, location and time.
Yeah.
The location of time was an issue for me.
Right.
Because I feel like you have the weekend of 4th of July that's right there. You got Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, right? So It's the 3rd, the 4th, or the 5th. Right. We know that if there's a carnival going on, they're going to shoot off fireworks on at least Friday and Saturday night, and the carnival's still going to be going on Sunday. So my point being, it's like, we could do this.
Right.
It's possible.
Possible.
Yeah.
Who is the one local worker you could never beat on their microphone?
On the microphone?
Yeah, promo type. Who had it? Who was killer on the microphone?
You know, that's kind of a loaded question. There's a lot of guys that are good on the microphone in St. Louis. I'm trying to think if there's somebody that outshines me in that regard. You know, I used to love my battles with Travis Cook.
Okay.
He's at SICW now. I don't know what he does over there. I think he manages still. But when we were in Dynamo Pro, Travis was the manager that I would go up against the most often as an executive director. And so my interviews and inner conversations with Travis were interesting in themselves. I wouldn't say that he necessarily outshines me on the microphone. What I will say is that there are certain people that they throw up what I consider equal, like fireworks, right? We're talking about 4th of July. Some people just do blue fireworks. Some are red. Some are yellow. Some are green. But they're all the same size. Do you see what I'm saying? They're all the same size. They're all pretty, but they're just different colors. That's how it is. That's everybody's kind of a different color, and everybody's kind of a different thing. So that's how it works itself out.
I got to show you this. We're talking about Florida Man. So Nikki says, I can't wait for the Tartan Army to meet the Florida Man.
Yeah. I listen, politics, like I said, it's personal for me. I love politics. I love discussing it. Flipping that mic on to discuss whatever. With Trump, it's for me, it's easy. It's crazy next thing that he's done, whatever he's done. Falling asleep today and this, that, or the other. Said that he was going to do this. I'm sure that if I went right now to Twitter, I bet you there's at least 15 new things that man did today or said.
Probably. Yep.
Legitimately.
Yep.
And I know one of them's probably, I'll run for president again in 2028. Yep. I could bet on it. I haven't even looked.
Right. So I call this question first thought. What is the first word that comes to mind when you look at young Randy Orton from the early Southern Illinois Conference days?
Say that again. What?
What's the first word that comes to mind when you see when?
Oh, I see what you're saying. When I think of Randy from back in those days.
Yeah.
Is mean. I'm going to say mean. And he can deal with it. Honestly. Look, I'm looking right in the camera right now. I'm looking right at it. Here you go, Randy. If you're watching this, there you go. You're mean. I wanted to change the radio in that Delta 88 multiple times. All that corn you kept playing, and I wanted you to listen to just some hip hop with me. Sometimes you wouldn't do it. Mean. You were just being mean. There it is.
Okay.
There it is. And he can deal with it. Let him.
So what is the number one pet peeve that a young wrestler can do in your locker room?
I don't look at, listen, there are things that I do hold dear and true to heart. There are, like I said, Omerta earlier, I'm from that last fraternity where we just kayfabe all day long. It was kayfabe. Like, you don't tell anyone. When you're in town, dude, there were times where, we went to the bar and hung out afterwards, and people came from the shows to the bar, and they want to start fights with us. Like the old stories you heard, like that, yeah. And it was 1998. It was 1999. It was back in the 90s. As I like to say, back in the 1900s.
Okay.
Way back then. Yeah. A different world. A meaner world, Scott.
Yeah.
You remember when bicycles had really big front tires and super tiny back ones? Yep. Amen. That's right.
That's right. So outside of yourself, Mr. Mark Bland, who is the most dangerous person inducted alongside of you in the Hall of Fame?
Most dangerous?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I mean, hold on. Let me see these classes. I gotta go class by class. Okay. Well, it's not Herb or Tony Costa. I was a lot larger than Tony, and Herb's really old, so he's not real scary. So I'm not going to go with one of them. I'm trying to think, Danny Boy's up there. Keith Smith's up there. Giant Assassin's up there. Those are some names I could put up there on that list. John Blackheart probably be in that run. Ron Powers would be in that run. I'm just going through each one. I'm looking and seeing what we've got. Well, not Pete Parisi. He definitely wouldn't be. And Earl Ebner definitely would not be. Let's see. Chaz Weston, could be up there. Hey, listen, no one's ever going to take anything away from Moondog Rover, right?
Right.
No one's ever going to take anything away from Moondog Rover. And maybe, and only because I'm trying to be nice here, maybe Extreme Kim Chi. That's it. That's it. Oh, and Big Mama Love.
Big Mama Love.
She probably would hit me with one of those clotheslines I would feel the next day.
Nikki says Steve Sharp.
I would body press Steve Sharp. I'm not worried about him. That's just a boop, bye. See ya. Goodbye.
Well, it's
He's top heavy. Listen, when you just if all you do is upper body and them legs never get worked on, I got just a little doop, done. Going over the top, Nikki. Come on.
I will say this, Mr. Mark. Thank you so much for making this a very entertaining, very fun show. I love the personality you brought to this Huge Pop Entertainment. I really did. You've encouraged me in ways. I appreciate it. One thing I did take away from this is you said, I can't remember how it said it, but you basically said, be who you are. Be Scott. Be, and do it. If you're going to do it, do it. And so so I love
you
that.
and me were talking about the radio stuff, and I know for you, the radio stuff, you want to get into that world, and I don't have a problem trying to help an individual get into that world. Right. If I know people in that area, that's the first issue that I got to figure out. But outside of that, it is what you said. It's just about it. Hey, if you're going to do this, just do it. Like they always say, great salesperson doesn't worry about all that BS. Make the product, sell it. Make the product, sell it. Focus on make the product, sell it. Make the product, sell it. It will naturally build itself to where it needs to be. It doesn't need you to keep trying to pick it. It just make the product and sell it. So see if you are still popular and keep going.
Right.
That's why we drink Coca-Cola, right? There it is.
Right. That's right. Mexican Coca-Cola, by the way.
Mexican Coca-Cola. Only Mexican Coca-Cola from Alligator Alcatraz.
That's right.
Aha!
That's right.
That's right, sir.
I just want to say thank you, Mr. Mark Bland.
No problem, man.
Huge Pop Entertainment. We have been talking about St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame. July 19th, am I correct?
Are you coming up here?
I wish I could, but I will say this. Where I work, my wife and I only get 36 days off a year, and so every other month we take 6 days. And of course, since I'm leaving on a plane in 6 hours.
Where are you going?
Dubuque, Iowa, for a promotion. It's their first ever show. DCW Dub City Wrestling out of Dubuque, Iowa. Austin Aries is going to be
3CW? 3CW?
Yeah, DCW.
Oh, DCW.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. My buddy, he started a promotion and he called Huge Pop Entertainment and said, hey, actually, he was my first ever guest on the show.
That's
3
cool.
years ago. So I'm going up to finally meeting the guys that I've.
Listen, Iowa's got some good wrestlers up there, man. They do.
Right.
It's got some talent.
I have to say thank you so much for being on the show. And if you could close with one line, tell everybody, if you could give anybody, if you get something off your chest, I don't care what it is, what would you say to close the show?
We're waiting you out, Trump.
There you go. So thank you again, everybody.
Pretty much what it's coming down to, homie. We're waiting you out, bro. However you want to get there, we're waiting.
Thank you, Mark. Don't go anywhere. I'd like to talk to you real quickly after the show, off the air.
Sure.
This has been Huge Pop Entertainment. We had 2 guests on today. We had Tom Simon. We had Mark Bland. You heard all about legends. You heard all about old school wrestling, guys. And this is where we need to go back to and look at some old school wrestling. Look at the wrestling at the Chase, the St. Louis wrestling. Look at it and listen. One more comment before we go. Jim Harris says, going to be a fun Hall of Fame and some pretty awesome updates and plaques. Thank you for Jimmy. Thank you, Nikki. Thank you, the Let me see who else popped in here. Scott, thank you guys for coming in. If you haven't been subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do so. And as always, like I'm going to say.
And before we do, it was just, why don't we be the first to congratulate that Hall of Fame class of 2026? Hey, there it is. We did it. We did it. Congratulations. Congratulations, Hall of Fame class of 2026.
Yes, that'd be really disrespectful if we didn't say that. Thank you, Mark, for bringing it up.
That's the whole point. We were going to talk about the Hall of Fame. So
thank you so much, and congratulations to the St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame 2026 class. Thank you to all the classes that came before them that laid the groundwork for what we have today as pro wrestling.
Especially class of 2025. Really, really important.
Absolutely.
It's it might be the most, it might be, I'm sorry. I'm not going to let you end the show with it unless, oh, wait a second. Are you kidding me? You can't just go straight there and see it. Oh my goodness. You can't hit the next button to get to that class. Oh my goodness. Do you see what I'm saying? Like this is craziness. This is craziness.
What about this website, right?
I don't know. If I would have got to that last one, I said Ace Strange could be on that list, right? I could have put Pete Madden on that list, or Sadie Blaze, or Ed Smith. There are a bunch of people I could be putting on that list. Maybe Steve Sharp, maybe not. I don't know. I couldn't even get to the end of the list.
No, we don't know.
No, I don't know. I just don't know.
All right, Huge Pop.
That's right.
This is Huge Pop, the as they call me, the pot stir, the pod god. Thank you guys for another amazing night. We appreciate you guys. Huge Pop Entertainment. Check us out this coming Friday. We'll be live from DCW, Dub City Wrestling, Dubuque, Iowa. Live independent action. Till now, we're out.